Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and calls upon the international community to pressure Israel to put an end for the Israeli aggression. Earlier in the Gaza Strip, Ahmed al-Jabari, a leader of Hamas movement, and his guards were killed, and scores of Palestinians were injured as a result of a series of Israeli occupation raids. The Israeli occupation used F-16 fighter jets, Apache helicopters and surveillance planes that targeted the eastern part of Al-Shuja'iyya neighborhood, Beit Lahia and Jabalia in Gaza. The Palestinian news agency Wafa reported that the Israeli jets targeted one vehicle near Al-Samir cinema on the center of Gaza Strip and another near Gaza port, killing Al-Jabiri, aged 52. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev has reiterated his country's stand regarding the Syrian crisis, calling for a political solution through dialogue and the halt of violence. In statements to Finnish news media, Medvedev said peace will not be established in Syria as long as some Western countries keep calling on the Syrian president to step down while they continue their support of the armed groups. The Russian Prime Minister described such stance as incorrect, adding that the Syrian crisis cannot be solved this way, as this would lead to the collapse of the Syrian state. Vice Foreign and Expatriates Minister Dr. Faisal Muqdad has affirmed that if the opposition does not grow inside the homeland and does not get the support of fellow citizens, then it can only be an externally made structure used as a tool to destroy the homeland. In a special interview with Russia Today satellite channel, Muqdad said, "We in Syria believe that the solution to the crisis can be achieved within a peaceful framework and at the table of negotiations." He pointed out that the first decision taken by the opposition coalition after it was formed in Doha was refusing dialogue and constantly declaring war and threatening to use weapons because they wanted to destroy Syria. Concerning talks about a military intervention in Syria, al-Muqdad said, "All indications give the impression that such intervention is impossible." An explosive device planted by terrorists near a shop in Sheikh Saad neighborhood in Damascus blew up, causing a huge fire and inflicting material damage on nearby shops and residential apartments. No casualties were reported. Syrian Arab Army unit eliminated a terrorist group in Al-Hajira in Damascus suburbs. Among the killed terrorists are the leader of the group, Abdussalam al-Shukri, was identified, in addition to a number of the most dangerous terrorists in Damascus suburbs. Another army unit also killed members of a terrorist group in Aqaba and confiscated their weapons and ammunition. In Al-Hasaki, terrorists detonated 2 explosive devices on Tel Nasri, killing a civilian, injuring 2 others and causing material damage. Terrorists also targeted civilian houses with mortar shells behind Umayyad Mosque in Damascus and in al-Assad suburb in Damascus countryside. The attacks caused huge material damage, but no casualties were reported. In Deir ez-Zor, an army unit clashed with terrorists from al-Nusra front in al-Musawasa street near the War Ghassan Aboud, killing a large number of them. In Deir ez-Zor countryside, a unit from the Syrian Arab Army targeted a terrorist gathering in Abu Kamal, killing many of them. Muhammad al-Matar from what's called Al-Qaqa Brigade was identified among the dead terrorists. In Idlib countryside, army units destroyed terrorist headquarters, killing and wounding scores of them. An army unit also targeted gunmen who were terrorizing citizens and committing acts of theft and robbery in the villages of Kafr Ruhin, Salmin, Sarga and Zardana, killing a number of them. Meanwhile, terrorists detonated 2 explosive devices on Idlib al-Mustuma highway and a third one at Ariha roundabout in Idlib city, causing huge material damage. An armed terrorist group stole 3 trucks for the Syrian Arab Red Crescent loaded with 15 tons of humanitarian aid on Damascus-Idlib road. The trucks were heading to Aleppo and Idlib. Head of the Red Crescent branch in Idlib, Ma'moun Kharbutli, told Sana reporters that the trucks were intercepted by terrorists in Tel Mennis town near Ma'arat al-Nu'man, adding that terrorists attacked and hit the drivers and took the load to an unknown destination. In Homs, the Syrian Arab Army destroyed a terrorist group hideout in Bab Houd and Al-Khalidiyya. Among the dead terrorists are Khairallah al-Salqini, Muhammad al-Hassoun, Khalid al-Hifyan, Taysir al-Hifyan, in addition to 2 from Saudi Arabia, who are Wardan al-Hayla and Khalif Ahmad al-Khalidi, and the Turkish terrorist Qasim Gwenzar. In Homs, terrorists detonated an explosive device at Al-Wa'ar neighborhood, killing 2 children and injuring 6 others. The government called in its session under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Dr. Wael al-Halaqi for exerting more efforts and supporting the Syrian Arab Army in its battle against armed terrorist groups that target economic establishments. Engineer Omar Ghalawanji, Vice Prime Minister for Services, and Minister of Local Administration reviewed the steps taken to rehabilitate the infrastructures and service facilities, in addition to providing shelter to the displaced families and supporting the relief efforts of non-governmental organizations that try to provide humanitarian aid for these families. For his part, Qadri Jamil, Vice Prime Minister for Economic Affairs and Minister of Internal Trade and Consumer Protection, reviewed the economic conditions and prices of goods, in addition to measures taken to monitor mills, bakeries and local markets. The Council of Ministers coincided and decided to form a committee chaired by the head of the Council to follow up the economic condition under the current circumstances and take the needed decisions and measures to overcome the crisis. Violent protests broke out across Jordan, injuring 14 people after the government announced an increase of fuel prices. Demonstrators burned tires, smashed traffic lights and blocked roads in several Jordanian cities. Riot police officers tried to quell some of the crowds with tear gas. At least 10 of them were injured. The Jordanian government announced a drop in subsidies that would result in an increase of 14% in oil prices at the pump and more than 50% in gas used for cooking.